So what is up, guys? Welcome back to the More Nick Ackerman channel. In this episode, I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to use your iPhone 17 Pro Max's cameras. Let's just start by saying you do have a camera control. You should know this. If you don't, that's not a sensor like for 5G. That is actually a button to go ahead and click that. So we'll start with that. We'll start with multiple different ways to go ahead and access the camera on your iPhone 17 Pro Max. So the first one is going to be right here on the lock screen. Hold down that camera icon and you'll get right in to the camera very easily. But there's also another way to do it on the lock screen. Swipe left and you'll get right into your camera. Some people don't even know that, but yeah, you can do that two different ways on the lock screen. Also, to go ahead and take a photo, it's kind of two different ways to do it, actually three. But you can go ahead, of course, everybody knows that, click the shutter key, but go ahead and tap your camera control. It's not just for changing features, it's also for taking pictures. But that's not the only way. You can also use the volume up, the volume down, and you can also use the action button if you set it up that way. Now, you can also set a shortcut to go ahead and open the camera. You can also ask Siri, open the camera. And Siri will open the camera. So let's just get that out of the way first. There's 1,000 different ways to open the camera on your iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now let's talk about some of the settings before we dive into the app itself. So in settings, locate camera. I'm going to turn on dark mode for a minute. Locate camera. And by the way, I forgot to mention, you can also add the camera in controls over here. So let's just type out camera here. You can also just add it right there, and that's another way to access the camera. So, I mean, we could just take a shot for every time, we say, oh, different way to access the camera. There's just so many different ways to get in there. But let's go ahead and go back to settings here, and we'll start up here, camera control. Now, camera control is going to allow you to do different things here. You can go ahead and change different things it accesses if you want, but we'll leave it for camera. You'll see a single click. We can get into it, or you can set it for a double click. So now if I set it on double click, I actually had a double click to get in there. That's going to make it feel a little bit more like what we're used to on an Android device. So let's go ahead and click right there. Back to single click. Now, you can put require screen on. This is going to allow you or make you to where the camera app with the camera control will require the screen to be on. I'm just reading that right there. But essentially, if I turn this on, no more accidental presses really of the camera control with a single click. Now, if its screen is back on, of course, it's going to allow you to go ahead and get in there. Now I have that off because I like to get into my camera very, very quickly. So now if it's off, one click and I'm in the camera. So that's pretty nice. Now, if we go down here, you'll see you can lock the focus and exposure by lightly pressing and holding right there. I don't use that too much. I like to do it manually with my finger, so I don't have a real issue there. And you can launch visual intelligence with this by holding down on camera control, and that'll allow you to ask ChatGPT or search things on the internet. So it goes on and on there. And of course, in accessibility, you can change different ways you do this right here. So that's camera control. Now, if we scroll down, we have different photo styles. You can also access these within the camera. We're not going to go through every one of them, but they are actually customizable to your exact preference, which is one of the neat things about iPhone. They give you these really nice different ways of taking photographs. So if you don't like a too warm photo, you can do something a little bit more vivid. Maybe you don't like it gold, you like it a little bit more rose gold. So really you can find and fine tune the way you like your photos to look. So that's a really nice touch. Now, one of the things is you can record up to 4K at 120, but do keep in mind and take note of the amount of storage it's going to take to use these, because when you get down to 4K 120, you're using 740 megabytes per second. So that's a lot right there. So definitely quite a bit. 4K 60 is available for very premium looking video. You can also do HD 120 slow motion. And then right here, you can record slow-mo up to 4K 120 or 1080 240 at the highest point of 1080. Now, if we go down here, you'll see you can record in spatial audio, stereo sound, or mono audio. It really depends on what you want. But if you like to record a video straight and you don't want it to be audio coming from different sides, I would recommend going to mono audio. So keep that in mind for those of you doing video. As we scroll down, we'll find different formats. They usually leave it in a 24 megapixel, but if you want to save space, you can go to the 12 megapixel. I leave it in 24. I mean, I bought a Pro Max for a reason. Going down here, you have Pro RAW and resolution controls. Now, I don't use these too much because I don't tend to use my iPhone as my main camera for making videos. I'm using a Lumix G9 Mark II right now, so that's my main hitter for that. But if you do use your iPhone for pro video, dive a little bit deeper into these, and you'll have quite a bit of fun. Also, you can do Apple ProRes, which you're gonna be able to edit a lot easier on a MacBook Pro. So, if you are editing, you are shooting with Apple ProRes, make sure you're using Final Cut or something like that to get the best editing results out of that. Now, if we scroll down a little bit here, you can preserve different settings. These essentially hold that setting where you had it before, which is a good thing. So you don't have to keep resetting everything like your depth controls, your macro controls. I kind of don't have them all on because I kind of like to set things up manually when I do take a photo. But if you're the type of person who just doesn't like live photo being triggered all the time, you want to go ahead and turn that on. So you're going to be good. I actually have a tutorial on that as well. As we scroll down, you'll see you can use the volume to burst. So you'll hold down for bursting if you want to use the volume for that. I tend to leave grids on because it gives you like that rules of third you can use. You can scan QR codes and you can scroll down a little bit more. You can see different indicators for video, action modes, dual capture as well. Let's swipe back out of there. And you'll see different types of lenses you can default to. So if you like to default on the 28 millimeter at 1.2x, you can do that. But I tend to leave it at 24. I like it pretty wide. And then as we scroll down here, you'll see lens correction. You'll see macro controls. They'll give you lens cleaning hints. And that's about it. But you can see in the Pro Max, the list of features goes on and on. So for sure. Now when we get into the camera of the phone, your basic setup is right here on iOS 26.2.1. The thing that a lot of people have been asking me lately is how do I get out of this area? And it's actually more simple than you might think. They're like, where did my features go? And it's kind of right here. You just kind of hold down and like go through the glass like that. So you got your video, cinematic, slow motion, time lapse. Just like before, it's just you got to hold now. I kind of don't love that because I feel like people are going to forget that a lot. Portrait, spatial, and pano. So we'll start here in photo. And of course, you got your 1x. If you tap that, you'll be able to go to 28 millimeters. Tap it again, 35. Go to 2x for more zooming, 4x for further zooming, and then your highest quality zoom is going to be 8 times on here. As you get past 8x, things do get a little bit more noisy on this phone, although they're not anywhere near as bad as you might think. If you have good lighting, you could still zoom in all the way up to 40x and get some really decent detail. It's just I'm really close to this object, so it's not going to look super sharp right here. Now, if I go ahead and click right here, that'll turn off the macro. So now it's kind of blurry up close, but click that little flower icon and you can get extremely close to these images right here. I mean, look at the grains of dust on the lens. I mean, the macro mode is superb on this iPhone. I mean, look at this. This is absolutely phenomenal detail. I tend to leave macro on unless I'm doing like I'm setting up and you want to just, you're tired of it kind of going into that macro camera mode. Up here on the left, you can change between RAW and JPEG. So RAW is going to be those photos for those of you who want to tweak and edit it to your exact liking. I tend to leave it on JPEG for most compatibility, but you can use that if you like. Click over here in these icons over here where you see like these dots over here in the top right, and you'll find most of the main settings on your iPhone 17 Pro Max. You can turn off flash just by clicking that to the slash across there, or else it's usually on auto, so you might get a flash in your face if you don't remember that. You can preserve those live settings in live photo settings in the settings, but you can go ahead and click those on auto. I tend to leave them off because I don't really love live photos all the time. They're kind of annoying if I'm being honest with you. Over here, you can click a few times to change different timer modes. So we'll go 3x, we'll go 5x, and 10x. So if you're like, where's the different things? You just got to click them to go through the different settings. Over here for exposure, it's going to bring down the exposure settings. Swipe to the left to increase exposure. Swipe to the right to decrease exposure. Now, if you want to reset it, you can just go right there and it'll reset back to the main exposure. Let's go back up where we were. We'll go to styles. Now we talked about the photographic styles within settings, but you can also find them right here in camera. And you take this little section right here and tweak it to where you like it, and you could just leave it in that section, and that's how your photos are going to turn out. Now, if you want them set back to the default settings, click right there and it'll default back to Apple's preset modes. So you'll see bright, neutral, cool rows, and the list goes on. So there's plenty. Mess around with them, find the ones you like. I tend to like natural or standard photos because the rest of these kind of just feel like filters to me. But I tend to leave it on standard or natural because I like the way it naturally looks out of the box on this camera. If I go click over here, you can change different aspect ratios. 4:3 is going to be your standard photos. It's going to be one of the higher quality ones as well. 16:9 is more like thumbnails for YouTube or like a wider shot if you want like wider photo. And then the 1:1 aspect is going to be your Instagram type photos, your social media, more squared images. So that's kind of what those are for. But if you want the highest quality, stick to 4:3 aspect ratio. Now going over here to video, tap up in the left-hand corner, you're going to see log recording, which you do have to enable in settings, but you'll see it right there. You can do HDR as well. This is that extremely bright video you'll sometimes see on YouTube videos. I don't love that because it blinds me sometimes when I open somebody's YouTube video and they were shooting in HDR. But some people like HDR, high dynamic range. It is a very vivid and bright video. Let me know if you like those down below. If I click 4K, you can see we can go up to 4K at 60. These are going to be your different frame rates. If you wonder what they do, 4K 24 is going to be your slower cinematic look. So a little bit more movie-like. 30 is just a standard 4K video. You'll see this a lot on YouTube. A lot of just 4K videos. And then 4K 60 is going to be very smooth frame rate. So as I move things around, you'll see it moves very smoothly. I'm actually going to be shooting most of my videos at 4K 60 on my main channel going forward, and you'll see a lot of smooth motions with the applications launching within my speed tests. But if we go ahead and switch over now, you'll see we can go to ultra wide on the video. We can actually use this to zoom in through the video, and you see it'll cap out at 24. So on the video, depending on the resolution, you can't zoom fully. If we go to HD 60 here, you'll see we can zoom 24. So it's not the full 40 you'll find in the camera photo section. Now up here is just more of the same similar settings that we found in photos. However, they do add two different ones, including action mode, which is going to turn your iPhone essentially into a GoPro like camera. This is the one you want to use if you're doing action video, you're running or whatever, you're on a bike, you know, you're doing a quick skateboarding video, you know what I'm saying, like you're in movement. That's the one you want on. Turn it off though, otherwise it's going to look extremely stable and a little bit strange, honestly, compared to your standard video. Dual capture is actually a nice new feature on iPhone. They didn't used to have this, but it allows you to use the front and the rear camera, giving you nice reaction type videos or videos where you want people to see your face, but also want to see what you're showing on camera. Pretty nice stuff right here overall. I do like dual capture. I don't use it too much for my videos, but it's fun to use when you need it. Going over here to cinematic mode, this is just a pure cinematic video. You can see they only allow 4K at 30 on that one, and that's the one if you're doing more movie-like, you want to like do that cinematic stuff, you can do that. They will allow for aperture settings as well as exposure settings in here, which will allow you to change up the field on here and get it kind of fine-tuned how you want your movie set up. We're a little bit too close for that image to look clear. But what you'll notice, a lot of blur in the background. You'll notice this very movie-like look on here. So I think most people using cinematic are going to be making short films and stuff like that. If you're not, it's probably not that useful for you. Over here in slow motion, you have the ability to change them resolutions up there up to HD 240 for slower slow motion or 120 right there. Again, they're only going to allow for exposure and flash on here. Time lapse is pretty self-explanatory. We've had this forever on iPhones ever since some of the earliest iPhones that ever existed. Now we'll swipe over to portrait right here. We'll go to portrait, and you're going to find in portrait, you can go 4 times on portrait photos or 1 times. They still have a lot of the similar features they've been having, including stage light mono, high key mono, and the list goes on. Most of these are just different types of lighting scenarios. You find the one that matches you and use that lighting mode. You're going to enjoy that. You'll find all basically the same settings within portrait mode for, you know, tweaking the camera as we found in photo. So go back to the photo section. I'm not going to re-explain all of that. Over here in spatial video, you're going to have to use this in landscape mode, and you're going to use this for making more videos that are more compatible with things like Vision Pro. So I don't feel like a lot of people are going to be using spatial video too often, and you can do your panoramic photos right there. So that's really most of the gist of the rear cameras on here. Again, you can use the camera control to click photos. So let's further discuss camera control just a little bit here. So in camera control, one light press is going to bring up different features here, including zoom. Now you'll just kind of zoom like that, swipe like that. It's like a light press right there. So you got to play around with it, get a little bit used to it. That little guy up there is going to flip to the front camera, and then double press right here and swipe through here to get the different styles, tones, cameras, zooming, depth of field, exposure. So you play around with those and tweak the camera the way you like it. Now in video, you're going to get essentially similar things. Some of them are going to be not turned on because video doesn't support all of those modes right there. But you'll see the camera control essentially is laid out pretty much the same on most modes right there. But go ahead and hold that down for a quick snap. Now, if you do hold this, it does record a video. So do keep that in mind. You might make a mistake and think holding it down, you're going to snap a photo, but you actually start recording a video. Okay, so we're done with the rear camera. Let's take this to the front before we wrap this up. So of course, just flip over there. You probably already knew this before. Now, unlike Samsung phones, you're not gonna be able to flip the camera like that. So don't even try that. It doesn't work. But over here, you'll see this is obviously gonna go give you a little bit ultra wide version. You didn't have this before on previous iPhones. So click that for super wide angle. This will zoom out a little bit, but if you want that ultra wide, you want to go like that. So that, just play around with that, find the angle you like. 18 megapixel on the front, it's pretty nice. Up here you'll see night mode, and then over here you're gonna find a bunch of the same exact features from the front, but night mode is included right there. And that will also trigger a bit more on the rear camera as well. You can do JPEGs or RAW, and then you could do front-facing video in dual capture. Now you can also do that ultra wide front-facing video as well, so that's really nice. And you can do cinematic. Again, same modes on the front essentially, but over here, no 4K 240 or no 4K slow motion on the rear here. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also time lapse. And as we swipe through here, kind of the similar take as the front. So we don't have to really go through all of these similar lighting modes on the front facing portrait. And then if we go over here to spatial, that's going to flip you right back to the rear camera. So that's essentially the front. We don't got to kind of go on and on about it. But that's pretty much everything with this iPhone. Go have a blast. Enjoy your iPhone 17 Pro Max. And remember some of the things we talked about in this video, like the ability to, the different ways to access the camera, the different ways to set up camera control. And just keep in mind, for the best results, I would say most of the settings Apple has by default are pretty good. You don't have to tweak too much stuff if you just want simple photography. But if you want to get a little bit more granular, I would go into those settings and set up some formats in your own way. You also see liquid glass, kind of like, it's like glass right there. You can kind of see through that glass over there, even in the settings. That's a really nice software polish. I do like that. And you can also change different formats over here right within the camera. So that's it for me on my how to use the iPhone 17 Pro Max's camera. Lots of features in there you've seen throughout settings and the actual camera itself. But it's been a blast. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next how-to. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.